Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back to the channel. Theo, first of all, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. It's a nice sunny day here in London, Friday, and got my 8 hours sleep. I think it was more than 8 hours yesterday after a sleepless night in Claw on Wednesday night, or should I say Wednesday morning. But yeah, I've kind of recovered now. I feel a lot more energized and looking forward to the weekend. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I've been busy. Been busy the last couple of days, sort of traveling here, there, and everywhere. And it's half term, so for anyone who's got kids and they're having to go through the painful thing of 2 weeks of half term, I feel your pain. It's a busy one, but no. Apart from that, it's been good. Football's good. We've ended our season, which we're going to talk about in the best way possible in terms of the trophy objective to get top four. We've done that. We're going to cover all of that in this episode and also the latest transfer news. Before we get into anything, as always, please make sure you subscribe, you like this video. We're so close to 800 subscribers. I did say I wanted it before the end of the season, but we never got there. We're four, I think we're four, maybe five off it. We're not too far off the subscribers. And as I said yesterday on the video, 14,000 and counting on Instagram. Yeah, so if you haven't already, go over to the Linktree link in the description, head over there, and you'll be able to just see some brilliant stuff on the content that you're pulling out on there for you. Brilliant stuff on there. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff recently about the Conference League, but I mean, as you said, you was over there in Poland. It looked amazing. It did look good, but then there was there were some scenes where I was looking and thought, yeah, I don't want to be getting hosed down by a water cannon or tear gassed by the police. But just yeah, how was it over there? What was the experience like?
It was good. It was really good. Fair play to UEFA because they really know how to turn these cities into like this kind of like gathering of all the fans and creating that buzz pre-kickoff of the fan zones, the DJs, all these little games, and Joe Cole and Steve Sidwell were out down in the fan zone meeting people. But firstly, I wanted to give a huge shout out to my friends Simon and Will. But hopefully they're listening to this or watching it, because if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't have gone, if I'm honest. Because I just remember messaging Will a few weeks ago, telling him like, accommodation's too expensive, flights are ridiculous, I'd have to go through Frankfurt or through Dublin or fly to this city in Poland, and it would still cost me £300 for just a single flight or whatever. And then he made a really good point. He told me, because he's a diehard Chelsea fan too, and we were together in Dortmund, in Madrid, in Valencia, and he told me that he missed out on all the finals in Munich, in Amsterdam, in Baku, and in Porto, and sure, let it be the Conference League, but he wants to be able to say he's been to a European final and watch Chelsea. And that really resonated with me. And then I just made that extra effort to kind of do a bit more research, look into flights, and managed to find a flight that went from London Stansted after work on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Poznan, which is kind of a nearby city to Wrocław. So I stayed the night in Poznan. Then I took a train from Poznan to Wrocław in the morning, got into Wrocław around lunch. Annoyingly, it started pissing down as soon as I got there. And when I say pissing down, it was like windy, grey, cloudy, rainy, like everything. And it just was kind of miserable rain. That cleared up in time for kickoff. And yeah, soaked up a bit of the pre-match atmosphere while I was there. Met up with a few Chelsea fans. Polish beer is good as well. Really, really good.
It looked at. I seen the picture that you sent me. I actually had to go and get myself a beer after seeing the picture that you sent me. So I was like, it would be rude not to.
It was good, yeah. I think we were doing rounds. I think a round of 7 pints was £21, which is very, very reasonably priced.
It's decent, especially when you live in London.
Yeah, exactly. When you compare to London, where you're paying. I think I got an Australia the other day in a pub after work, and it was £7.55 for an Australia.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. And but yeah, I was surprised by it probably did without us knowing, like lift up the prices, but it was still cheap for us Brits coming to Poland. And then yeah, like you said, there were a few kind of scenes that were a bit troubling. It always takes one idiot to kind of get things started with the police or the rival fans. And I read that, or I got told that Legia Warsaw fans or other fans across Poland from Polish teams traveled down to Wrocław to just cause trouble with the Chelsea fans.
Right.
So it wasn't actually just the Betis fans. It seemed to be like these kind of small fractions of Polish fans or ultras, all dressed in black, who came down to cause trouble with the Chelsea or English fans, which would make a bit more sense, because historically there's always been that rivalry, Poland-England, when the teams have played each other. And the Polish fans, we would have played them, the Legia Warsaw, in the quarterfinals, and we saw what they're like at Stamford Bridge, quite intimidating, and definitely want to kind of make themselves heard and seen. But yeah, kickoff then came about. and stadium's impressive, really, really impressive.
You looked it. Did look
Yeah.
good.
But what I tell you what, though, is pre-kickoff, all of a sudden, I looked at the stadium. I looked at, the kind of the way everything was set up, the banners, the logos, and everything was green. Just everything was green.
Yeah, I noticed
And
that.
also, the seats of the stadium were green. The Conference League logo is green. The Folklore 2025 was green. Then I looked across the stadium, and all the Betis fans obviously wear green and white. And I
Yeah,
was thinking
yeah,
to myself, this is just it's meant to be for them in
yeah,
a
yeah.
way. And similarly to how I felt in Porto in 2021, when we were playing at the Dragao, everything was blue with the
Blue.
seats and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And I was like, this is meant for us. And then after that first half, I told myself, yes, it's going their way. That first 45 minutes was absolutely dire, really, really dire. But we'll talk more about the game afterwards. But then, straight to the bars after to celebrate. And I hadn't booked accommodation that night because my flight was at 7 a.m. Um, Listen, I've done that once. I probably won't do it again because sure, I saved some money not booking accommodation. But by the time I got back to London, straight to the office in my Chelsea kit in the office, still wearing the clothes I wore the night before. Needed a shower in the office showers, but I was just thinking to myself, like, I smell like really bad right now. I need to freshen up, and then my energy levels were just at an all-time low. Just hadn't slept in 24 hours. I felt
It's
like
got
a
to be worth it
zombie.
though. It's got to be worth just like
It
the.
was
I
worth
know
it. It
it's
was, yeah,
it's a
it
long
was.
day, but I think once you're there, obviously you enjoy it at the moment. It's never. I don't think even if you had 20 hours sleep, I never think coming back from a trip abroad is ever nice. You know that sort of. You've got to be up. You've got to be at the airport. You've got to be there. You've got to do. Get through security, and then you're waiting for the plane, and you've got to get on the plane, get off, go get home. So it's never nice coming back from any, whether you're on like a family holiday or a football trip abroad or whatever. So, but no, it sounds good. It sounds like it was amazing, and I know there's,
Yeah,
if you haven't already, go and check out the match day vlog as well. That's out on our channel as well. So, but yeah, no, it looked good. Did look good.
it was really good, yeah. And like you said, it was definitely worth it. Traveling is never straightforward nowadays, even if it's a direct flight and you've got a reasonable time you're traveling at. But yeah, listen, I know it's the Conference League. I know we were expected to win it, but it just felt special seeing that young kind of group of players and crop of players lift silverware. I think Enzo Fernandez was particularly happy because he kind of like had that leadership kind of feel. Players like Tyreek George and Ash Champong, this would be a huge kind of
Yeah,
experience for them. And one thing I did say about Porto 2021 is I almost felt like guys like Mount, Reece James, Abraham, I almost felt like that came too soon for them, to lift the Champions League and
yeah, yeah,
get to know
yeah.
that success. Whereas for this group of players, I feel like it's a perfect time to lift a trophy like the Conference League. And hopefully it'll be a bit of a springboard for them to kind of gain that confidence and motivation to lift bigger and more important trophies throughout their Chelsea careers.
It is. I think it's interesting because I think we were favourites, but we had hurdles along the way in the Conference League. It wasn't plain sailing. Yes, I think we scored the most amount of goals in the tournament throughout from the very from the start. But I think it wasn't easy. It wasn't like we went and we just dominated games and we smashed teams. We had to work hard still to get there. And I think this young group of players, I said it. I remember saying it when we found out we were going to be in the Conference League last season. And I remember we did an episode, and I think we both said, I definitely said that for me, I was happy that we was in it. I don't think we were ready to go into the Champions League or the Europa League with the squad that we had at the time. And I still, looking at our squad now, we're definitely not ready to go into the Champions League. But that team, bar maybe Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, I'm probably missing someone, but none of them have won anything major. None of them have won
Yeah,
anything sort of. Reece
Reece James would
James,
have been the only one in that Champions League squad.
yeah,
But yeah, I
but
think you're
the
right.
the younger players, none of them have won anything. So
No.
it's it's something that I think you need to use as a springboard, definitely to kind of get this young team understanding what the winner's mentality, the Chelsea DNA is all about, in my opinion. And was you surprised by the lineup?
Yes and no, because I know that Maresca was hinting at he'll play players that have played a part in the Conference League and base it on merit throughout the tournament, and that was probably that kind of explained why he started Jurgensen, and that was in his talk track to why he confirmed he was starting Jurgensen. But then to myself, I was thinking, in that kind of logic, you'll start players like Dewsbury Hall, like Tyreek George, and he didn't. He went for quite a very strong 11. Sure, it's a final, it's silverware. I understand a strong 11, and that almost backfired at times because
Yeah.
Gusto for me was poor in that first half. I know he's a good player. He's not had the best of seasons, but he was particularly poor in that first half and probably to blame for the first goal. And then he takes him off and brings on Reece James, and then that kind of acted a bit like a catalyst, especially those substitutions, for how we went on to play in the second half and score our 4 goals. But I'm not particularly surprised. I think I would have maybe gone with a Tyreek George over a Madueke, perhaps, or maybe rest Pedro Neto, given that he's played a lot of football. But listen, things paid off in the end. The substitutions came on and played their part. Sancho, Reece James, even Dewsbury Hall. I think he's really, I know he probably wants a bigger role, but there's kind of like last 10, 15 minutes of the game, he brings a lot of energy. Badiashile as well, I guess he deserves to start. And Tosin, I think a lot of people write him off, but behind the scenes, a lot of people say he's very vocal, and he's kind of seen as a bit of a father figure amongst the much younger players. And he's probably the type of guy you'd want to start in a final, when these types of finals at least. But no particular surprises. How did you feel about the starting 11?
Well, before I say that, let's shout out Darmish, who's falling asleep at work, apparently, in the comments. If you're on the YouTube live, you'll be able to see that he's put a comment. He's falling asleep at work. Darmish only flew back, I think, this morning and went straight to work.
That's how I felt yesterday, Darmish.
Yeah,
I was literally asleep at my desk. Yeah,
he's feeling your pain right there. But how did I feel about? I was a bit nervous. I think when the lineup came out, I did think. To me, I understand you want to sort of merit the players that got you to the final. That's understandable. But Jose had a very, very good saying, and it was finals are not to be played, they're to be won. And for me, you've got to play your best. You've got to play your best 11. We know that Reece James is on his day. You saw how night and day it was, literally chalk and cheese. How the difference when Reece James came on at halftime, what it meant. You could understand what it meant. He knows what it means to play in a final. He's been there. He's done it. He's lifted the Champions League. So for me, he has to be in that team. Badiashile, yes, he's got. I think he played pretty much every game prior. Up until the final. He played in every game. I think. But it's a final. You know that Colwell's probably better. You know that, for me personally, Colwell is much better than Badiashile. You know that Trevor Chalobah can come in and do a job in that defensive line as well. Jurgensen, I wasn't too concerned about because, again, I think it's slightly different for your goalkeepers. You know that neither of our goalkeepers are amazing. They're not world class, but you know that Jurgensen can and did pull off some really good saves in the final. But I just thought those two players, especially in your defence as well, especially in the defence, I just thought it's a recipe for disaster. And to be honest, Gusto, I think what day is it today? It's Friday as we're recording this. He's probably still having nightmares about the final 2 days later because it was awful. That first half was, I don't think people who probably haven't played football at any level, not even like a high level, but when you're playing as a right back, if your manager's telling you to invert into that midfield, it's a whole different ball game to as you're normally playing as a right back. You see things so different. And I think he got caught out so many times in that position when he was dropping into the midfield. It wasn't working. And the amount of space that I think it was Elienazuzi, I think his name was, on the left side. Yeah. He was getting so much space on the left side. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, they almost scored like seconds after scoring their first goal. I think it was Bartra shoots and Jurgensen had to make a save. But yeah, I do worry for Gusto because it seems like Maresca's fullbacks need to be able to play this inverted role, which Cucurella's done such a fantastic job with. We've seen Reece James drop into midfield numerous times. Renata Vega was brought into the club last summer to play this inverted role, left-back midfield. But Gusto's just struggled, hasn't he? He really has.
It's hard. It's hard. I think it's not... Trent struggled. For example, Trent has struggled when he was playing in the Euros for England. They wanted him to drop into the midfield and be a midfielder. Not invert, but actually be in the midfield. And he found it difficult. He's found it difficult at times playing for Liverpool, inverting into that midfield. It's not for everyone. Cucurella can do it very well. I think Reece James does it very well. But there's some players that just they're not naturally expected to drop into that midfield. And he looks like one of those that he's just a right back. Bombing down the wing, up and down the line. That's his job. To get him into that midfield, and then you're asking a lot from, I think it was Trevor Chalobah that was playing alongside him. You're asking a lot from him because he's now having to cover not just as a centre-back, but he's having to cover even for the goal. If you look at the goal that Real Betis scores, I think it's Isco that passes the ball over He sees, he draws in Badiashile. He makes the pass. Chalobah isn't sure whether to commit or not. Gusto is out of position. He's trying to get back, and Jurgensen is unfortunate. He's in, he's either going to have to commit or not as well. But it was just weird. It was for me, it's just a weird selection to put someone in a final, and I get it, but your captain is on the bench. That was the big question mark for me, I think, for the final.
Yeah, we have to remember Reece James, I think, has played his most football this season since, I think, the 2021-22 season. And he seems to really kind of been keeping himself fit since he's returned from injury around January, February time. And I think that's a credit to Maresca, how he's managed his minutes. But at the same time, you do need your club captain on the pitch.
In the finals.
Yeah, for finals, for these big games against Liverpool, Manchester United. And just begs the question, if your captain, arguably one of your best players, can't stay fit for 50% of the games, then do you just give the armband to someone else? Would you keep him as the club captain because maybe you see something in the dressing rooms, he knows what it means coming from the Cobham Academy, being a first team player. But yeah, I personally think Reece James has done well as captain at times, and I do see him sometimes stepping up. He's a lot more vocal now on the pitch, but I wouldn't be surprised if behind the scenes players are looking up more towards someone like Tosin, like I said, someone like Enzo, who's very vocal on the pitch, or even potentially soon to be, I think Caicedo could be a brilliant captain given how instrumental he is at times.
It is a massive test it will be a massive test for Reece James. I still think he's captain material. I think you could see it as soon as he came on at half time. It wasn't just, I've got the armband, I'm going to run on and get ready to play this game. This was, I'm going to get everyone in for a huddle before the game kicks off. I want to talk to people. You could see him on the pitch almost ushering people over to him to talk to them, to drill it into them. Those players would have got a rollicking at half time because it was just, the performance was bad. You could see that Cole Palmer was getting frustrated throughout. He even said it after the game. I was frustrated, keep having to pass the ball backwards and sideways. And, I think he said eventually, once I've got this ball, I'm just going to go forward with it. And you could see what he could do. You could see the two assists. I mean, the Enzo Fernandez one was brilliant. He picks the ball up and just, in the midfield. And the second one, I mean, you caught it on camera perfectly. I mean, the fact that if that was Lionel Messi, I think people would be saying, wow, what a player.
If that was Lionel Messi, if that was Lamine Yamal, people would be like sharing these highlight reels like all over social media. But it just seems like it's gone a bit under the radar because it was Cole Palmer, maybe because it's a Conference League final and not the Europa League final, the Champions League final. But one of those goals where the assist is better than the goal because the way he just holds the ball, the way he kind of is patient with it as well.
It's a strength as well, having that strength to hold off the player. Yeah.
And had I told you at half time that we'd go on to score 4 goals, you would have probably called me crazy because we just didn't look like we were go on and score 1 goal, let alone 4 goals. So yeah, huge credit to the team, whoever gave the team talk at halftime, whether it was Maresca, Reece James, or another player or someone, and the members of staff. But yeah, it was really a game of two halves, and like you said, the Cole Palmer assists. And then also something that I did point out is we've got to remember, like, this is no disrespect to him, but their keeper, Adrian, he was the third choice at Liverpool only 2 seasons ago. Maybe he's a good keeper, but he can't be that good. So I told my mates that I was sitting with, like, we've just got to test him or we've got to shoot.
Yep. Well, Sancho did that.
Stopped that. Yeah, Sancho did that. And also Enzo Fernandez's header, the equalising goal, was fairly tame. Like, he could have done a lot better. So I think that set the precedent for us just trying to shoot a lot more. Caicedo as well in that at a time, I'm sure he took a deflection. But this is what I was hoping we'd see a bit more, not just in this match, but throughout the season, chancing our luck, shooting more. Because at times we're just kind of passing the ball and wanting to kind of negative, yeah. And that's probably why our expected goals are so low. But yeah, if we can try to like learn from that next season and just shoot a bit more, even if it's going to be like a long ranger or maybe not the perfect shot, but you might get the keeper to parry it out and then shoot on the rebound. Maybe it means bringing in a new striker who's a bit more, willing to shoot more. But yeah, hopefully, that's something we can work on for the Club World Cup next season.
I wanted to ask you as well, because I know before the game, a lot of the attention from a Real Betis perspective was around Antony and how Antony was going to potentially be, the player that was going to galvanise the team and do something. And we have to credit Marc Cucurella because he had him in his back pocket pretty much for majority of that game. Marc Cucurella was able to deal with Antony very, very easily. And I think he's been one of our outstanding players this season. We know that based on just the performances he's put in. But I remember you said it, you was sort of had reservations about him when he first came to the club in terms of some of his
Yeah.
performances. I did as well. But he's gone on to show that he can be one of our, the leaders in our team, not just on the field, but you see it off the field. You spoke about Reece James and Tosin, but he looks like he's one of those leaders on and off the field for us now. And he's putting in brilliant performances week in, week out.
Yeah, he's really won us over, the fans, everyone that's involved in the club. Because that first year, I am aware that probably a lot happened behind the scenes that we're not aware of. I think I
Yeah, I
messaged on
remember you saying. Yeah, yeah.
WhatsApp, but I think his house got burgled. The manager that signed him, Tuchel, left within a month after he signed him. I think he probably also found out that his young son had autism as well, which is probably never easy to learn as a father. So I think a lot was happening behind the scenes, and these footballers are human. We have to know that. So that probably affected his performances on the pitch. But he's been absolutely fantastic this season and even last season. And he's been so kind of consistent with his performances, so liked as well amongst the players. And also he's come up with goals at the moments we really needed him. That goal against United, the goals against Brentford as well, against Wolves. There's a few more that I haven't spoken about. The one against Leicester that got us to 3 points at Stamford Bridge. He's almost been like a second Marcus Alonso at times, coming up with these goals when we really need him. And yeah, he really kept Antony quiet. I'm not sure you saw what Frank Leboeuf said, but he said the only time that I actually realised that Antony was playing was when he got into some kind of altercation with Enzo Fernandez. But that's pretty much the only thing he did during that game. And it's quite reassuring against Chelsea fans because we've been seeing all these videos of him scoring these curlers in La Liga and in the other Conference League games. And then in this game, it seemed like it was the same old Antony that we've been watching in the Premier League with United, which is obviously good for us. And their other kind of talismanic player, Isco, obviously brilliant player, but he kind of was very quiet in the second half, wasn't really able to play his football.
He did pull the strings in the first half, I'll be honest.
He did, yeah. He's a really good player though, but I think just second half, I think just the whole, after maybe that second or that third Chelsea goal went in, and they were quite in quick succession as well. I think it just completely depleted Real Betis.
Yeah, no, I agree. And obviously the other two goals, Caicedo's goal was brilliant as well. And Sancho, this is what we needed to see. And this is what I was saying in the match review the other day, is that's what we need to see from Sancho. Not sort of, because I don't know if you watched the overlap with Thierry Henry. I've only watched like the first 10, 15 minutes of it. But he talks about players now not wanting to take defenders on or trying to cut in, not willing to be, to try and take the defender on and have a 1v1 and go on the outside. I know Sancho cuts in on this occasion in the final, but Sancho has the quality to take defenders on. He's got the skill, he's got the ball control, he's got the speed, he's got the agility, he's got everything that he's a defender's nightmare. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, whether the coach is saying to him, actually, we need to retain possession, so don't lose the ball. Make sure you get it back to Gyokeres if nothing is on that's available for you, or don't shoot. But you could see how much. I mean, it was a brilliant goal, literally just a quick out of underneath from his body, and Adrian didn't stand a chance because the ball, as soon as it's out from underneath him, the ball's in the back of the net, and that's what we need to see from Sancho. Do you feel like not that we've been let down by Sancho, but do you feel like Sancho hasn't done himself any favours if he does end up going back to Manchester United? Because there is a quality player in there. He just hasn't showed it enough at Chelsea during his time on loan.
We've seen glimpses of it. We really have seen glimpses of it. And I still think 25 million for a player like Jadon Sancho is still a reasonable, good deal. But you mentioned this so many times on this podcast, you would have to take a massive wage cut to fit in the kind of wage infrastructure here at Chelsea. I still feel like the Jadon Sancho we've seen at Chelsea has been a lot better than the Jadon Sancho we've seen at Manchester United. Performances as well, but also just his overall body language and how he seems as a person in training. And the same Jadon Sancho we got that earned the move back to the Premier League in, I think it was 2021 or 2022. Yep. But yeah, like you said, I think the modern day players, and like Thierry Henry probably rightfully pointed out, are probably taught to just retain possession, pass it back when in doubt. But he does have that ability to take on players, score goals, shoot from range. The goal against Ipswich, the one against Tottenham, he's kind of proved that he's got that in his locker. But yeah, it still seems so 50-50 whether we're going to sign him or not. One day it seems like we are, then the next day we're not. So you'd probably hope we get that sorted out before the Club World Cup now.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll talk about Sancho later on, but I think he's I feel like he should have maybe done a little bit more in terms of showing what he can do. And what I liked about Cole Palmer before he moved on from the final is he kind of took things into his own hands. You know, I don't know if
Yeah.
we win that final if he doesn't do that. If he doesn't say, actually, I'm not going to pass backwards, I'm not going to pass sideways to Caicedo or whoever, I'm going to drop back in deep into the midfield, I'm going to make something happen. And I think before the Enzo goal, he takes on about 2 or 3 players, and the ball over the top is brilliant as well. And like we said about the Jackson goal, but I think we need to see a bit more of that creativity. But we'll talk about transfers and potentials, incoming, outgoings later on. I wanted to ask you before we, well, sort of segueing into a different topic, but I wanted to ask you around, obviously the last game of the season, Nottingham Forest, we win. We go into the Champions League for next season, which is a green tick. It's the objective that Maresca was set at the start of the season. Do you think Maresca has done enough this season to buy himself possibly another year, or just he's bought himself some more time? I think, there was very much mixed opinions of him, whether he should be, is he the manager to take Chelsea forward? But I think he's met the objectives set by the ownership, which was top 4 and a trophy. I think he's done enough.
Yeah, I mean, last summer, I think the objectives with this young squad were to finish top 4, and it was top 4 at the time, not top 5, because that was before we knew that a 5th place team would get Champions League football. And fair play to him, he finished 4th and not 5th in the end. So, and then the other objective was to win silverware, the Conference League, which he did. Shame maybe we didn't go on another cup run. I think in the FA Cup or in the
or the League Cup,
or in the League Cup, because I think those trophies were probably there to be won at times, especially given how you look at some of the bigger teams. When I say bigger, the cities, the Liverpool, sometimes they crash out a lot earlier. And City in the final probably were beatable. This season they just didn't seem like the same City. But one thing I think Maresca's done really, really well at, especially in that final, I felt, was making us fall in love maybe with this Chelsea again, because I've just been so disconnected from this team since this takeover, since the sanctions. And I think it was Joe Cole who made a really good kind of like comparison or metaphor. And he said that there's a moment in football where you do feel disconnected from your team, but then you learn to like love them again. And he compared it to almost falling in love with your wife for the first time, your girlfriend. And I feel like that moment in the Conference League final, we saw the players celebrate. We saw kind of this blend of experienced players like Tossin and Reece James, and then the less experienced ones like the Champongs and the Tyreek Georges all celebrate together. Might have been that little tick or that little moment that things clicked with us to make us fall in love with this team again.
Yeah.
And I do feel like no matter if it's the Conference League, but kind of going through that cup run, going through that knockout football, making it to the final, traveling with these teammates, lifting silverware with them, celebrating in the dressing room afterwards, on the pitch with the fans, will unite this team a lot more and probably make you realize that I still don't think we're ready for Champions League, but we do maybe have what it takes to kind of take on, this knockout format or these European competitions. So that's something that I'm really pleased with. And I don't know, times we were booing Maresca. I mean, I never boo managers, but the fans, I think half time at Craven Cottage, but it always seemed like the players just backed him. I think that was proof when like at full time, everybody was celebrating with him. I think I forgot who it was. I think it would have been Tyreek George, who was really, really great for the manager. And even as Champong mentioned recently that when Maresca came in pre-season and Maresca told him that, he already knew who he was. He watched some of his games when in the academy. It meant a lot to him. So it does seem like he knows what it takes to manage this young team. But now it's just all about adding this blend of experience with this team that can take it to the next step. And that's probably what we're going to talk about when we speak about transfers as well.
Yeah, I think it's been difficult. I think not just for Maresca. I think it's been difficult for fans. I think it's difficult for the players because I think you're right. I think there was a massive disconnect. I think Pochettino sort of bridged that gap a little bit. He built the foundations of bridging the gap between club and owners. I think it was very toxic after Graham Potter. I don't think it was, it was really toxic then. If you remember, it just didn't feel like Chelsea Football Club at all. And I think when Pochettino came in, he was able to install a little bit of that again. But with Maresca coming in, fresh, new ideas, we obviously started the season very well. And there was a lot of sort of muted title race talk until Maresca shot that completely down. But I think he's done well. And I think, you can't ask for more. Madueke said something after the game, although he's doing my head in after the game, but
He was as well.
he was doing my head in. But he did say something really good, was that, you can only win the trophies that you're able to win. If we're not in, the Champions League, we can't win that. If we're not in the Europa League, we can't win that. We should have done better in the domestic in terms of League Cup, FA Cup, but to go on and win a Conference League, and we haven't mentioned it on this episode yet, but to be the only team to win all major European trophies, can we call the Conference League a major? I think we can. I think we can call it a major trophy. No other team's done that. I said on Friday, Wednesday, I think only Emerson and Jose Mourinho, the only two other people individually to have done that.
Oh yeah.
No one else has done that. No other club has done what we've done. So as much as we turn our nose up at the Conference League, it's added a bit of history to the football club, and Maresca's been part of that. It could have been so easy for him to kind of not have the confidence or the managerial ability to win the Conference League, because look, Fiorentina went out. There were some decent teams in there that were, if you go back to some of our matches, they weren't all straightforward. We could have lost them. Let's be honest. There were some really difficult games. So I think Maresca's done really well this season. It's been hard for him. I think next season will be a massive. I think he'll have a massive target on his back, if I'm honest. And I think I say that because after the Forest game, I don't know if you got to see the press conference, but he almost said, all the doubters that didn't believe in us and F off and all that. And I think that's good. But as soon as you have a bad run of games next season, the media are going to be on top of him straight away, because that's just what the media do. They want to assassinate him. Do you think Maresca is the manager to take Chelsea into the Champions League next season?
I think that's still a massive TBC. It completely depends on our summer activity. What I do like, it seems like Maresca's trying to push for more experienced players from an age perspective to come into this team. And that's, I think, what I've been wanting for a very long time. I still do feel like he lacks a bit of European pedigree. When we were linked before in the past to guys like Allegri, like Luis Enrique, like Hansi Flick, there's still a massive gap in quality between those managers and someone like Maresca. But this new ownership, we know it's not just players, but it's also manager. They rather kind of go for the next big thing rather than the kind of current thing. But yeah, I'm pleased though that he's finished the season and met his objectives. I'm also really pleased that now that you look, we're going to keep a manager for 2 pre-seasons in a row, which is something we've not.
That should not be an achievement.
No, I know it really shouldn't. But I'm saying, like, I'm pleased that this has happened, because it means that now he gets to work with his team for an additional summer. I think the last time that's happened was probably under Tuchel, and Tuchel even didn't really have a full first season because he came in January. So yeah, I think that's going to really blend the team together, build up that chemistry, and yeah, like you said, we've won it all now. All the European trophies that there are to win, we've won them. Sure, be it, I still much rather be in the Champions League every season than be in these Europa Leagues or Conference Leagues. But what it does show us is the 2 times we've been in the Europa League and the 1 time we've been in the Conference League, we've won it. So we are still a quality team. And we won't be having any trophy parades, I can tell you that, unlike some other teams in London that organise trophy parades for these type of achievements. We won't be having a trophy parade, which shows the kind of expectations there are at Chelsea Football Club as well.
It shows how much the Arsenal fans are clutching at straws. Credit to the women's team for winning it, but I can guarantee you a lot of those fans would not have been going to that. It had the men's team had won something, so each to their own. And the other team in North London as well. They made a big meal out of their Europa League, but whatever, it's fine. We are back in the Champions League where we need to be. I think for Maresca, I feel, and this is the ownership now as well, I feel that we're either 3 players away from being a really bang average team, or we're 3 players close to being back to where we need to be. And I say that because I think we've spoken about on here before about the kind of transfers that we want to see come through the door. Let's start with the big one first, Liam Delap, because it looks like that deal's now been done. I think he's having a medical, if not today, then tomorrow. I think a Chelsea fan caught him at Stansted Airport. So
yeah,
so he looks like he's definitely in the vicinity to make sure he gets his medical done. Big key question though, he's part of the England under 21 Euro squad, so he won't be part of the Club World Cup, as I said yesterday.
Okay.
He's part of the setup for the Euros, which I think starts next week. So he won't be part of England, Chelsea setup until England are, knocked out the tournament. So do you feel that Liam Delap, first of all, 30 million release clause? I would say the wages are probably much better than Osimhen and Viktor Gyokeres, Benjamin Sesko. But do you feel this is a good bit of business from Chelsea?
I think it's a good bit of business for the reasons you mentioned. His wages will be a lot lower than those other Champions League kind of proven strikers or number 9s out there. His price tag, 30 million, for a player who's 21 and scored 12 goals in a really struggling Ipswich Town team, I think is decent, especially nowadays when as soon as someone does well and they're British or English, their price tag is massively inflated. So I think it's a good bit of business from that perspective. And you look at the other teams that were linked with his signature, United, Tottenham, Liverpool, it shows that a lot of big teams were chasing his signature. I'm still a bit like, this is what gives me a bit of hope. Is there's still up, I think I put a tweet up about this earlier, is apparently the board of the Chelsea ownership are still discussing if they're satisfied with Jackson and Delap as their number 9s, or if they want to go for another number 9. And that would open a door to someone like an Osimhen, a Gyokeres, a Sesko, a Ekitike. Because I still think Delap and Jackson, and if we keep Marquis, that kind of trio of strikers going into the Champions League season, I've still got a lot of doubts and question marks. I mean, this is the question I always ask, is would you go into a Champions League final with Jackson or Delap as your number 9? I don't know. But these players do always have to start somewhere. And we have seen in the past when we signed players from like the likes of Gary Cahill from a relegated Bolton, Victor Moses from a relegated Wigan. Yeah. These players have done really well from it for us. I mean, of course, the price tags are quite different. I think we got Cahill and Moses for like 8 million, whereas Delap's 30 million. But it doesn't mean that just because you're signing a player from a relegated team that they're not ready to play at that top level. So I am excited. I would have loved to see him at the Club World Cup, but hopefully we do get to see him at some point pre-season. But I still think we need to go a step further and sign a properly proven Champions League quality number 9.
Yeah, I said that yesterday to you in the group chat. I was like, this is a signing that is low risk. I mean, it's a low risk signing. You think about, like you said, the wages and the fee. He's done well in a really bad Ipswich squad that got relegated. So I think to score 12 goals, 22 years of age, he reminds me, and I hate doing comparisons, especially on the podcast, but he does remind me of a almost like a little bit like Harry Kane, a little bit. And I'm not talking in terms of the goals and, what he's done so far, because he's obviously miles away from that. I just mean in terms of how he plays his football. Some of the goals that he scores, traditional number 9, very bullish. I like that about him. And I think he ticks a lot of boxes for me that Nicholas Jackson doesn't tick. And that's where I think I'm sort of, over the course of time, I've always been and ah, and, is he good? Is he that? But as you look at him and you think he's a low risk, very much like Jackson. The problem that we had with Jackson is we wasn't sure what he was going to bring based on the half a season he had at Villarreal.
He had no competition. He had no competition, Jackson.
No competition. And he's had no competition this season as well. We've now got someone who's going to give Nicholas Jackson, regardless of if we bring someone else in, there's going to be competition for that number 9 role. That's what I think is making me think this is a very good deal. What I do think, and I have to caveat that with, is that we still need to go and get a prolific goal scorer. This cannot be the end of like we've got a striker, that's it, great. No, we need to go and get another striker. We need 3 good goal scorers to even try and win the Premier League and or the Champions League. We cannot go into the Champions League with Nicholas Jackson and flipping Liam Delap as the strikers. It can't happen. So if it's Gyokeres, if it's Osimhen, if it's Ekitike, whoever it is, whoever comes in has to come in and they have to be the primary striker. Delap and Jackson have to be the 2 that play in the Carabao Cup. They'll play in no games against who came up this season. Sheffield, was it Sheffield? No, Sunderland. Those sort of players, I expect them to play in those games and rotate our number 9 a little bit and wrap the main guy in cotton wool. But we can't have just Liam Delap. But he's a good signing. He's a very good signing for the fee as well. And we know what he can do. He bullies defenders, and that's good enough for me. He does more than he'll score more than Nicholas Jackson next season. I can bank on that, regardless of who plays.
I like that prediction. But yeah, I just think his all-round play kind of suits the Premier League number 9 or striker, and which warrants the comparisons maybe to a young Harry Kane. And we have to remember he was in the Man City academy. He's worked with Maresca while Maresca was at Man City.
Lavia and Palmer.
Played with Palmer and Lavia. He's played with probably another of the other English lads in the England under 21s.
Yeah,
and he's still 21, so there's still a lot he can improve on. But it just does seem like he fits this blueprint of player that we want to try to go for at the moment. And it must have been something in his contract that said if Ipswich get relegated, then he can leave for a set price.
Yeah.
And like you said, fans are getting selfies of him at Stansted Airport. So that makes me think he's in London now to sign his contract. Maybe he would have cut his holiday short to come to London and sign his contract. And imagine now you're flying back from Wroclaw, get to Stansted Airport, and you see Liam Delap at the airport. But yeah,
I don't think he's going to get a holiday. His holiday is literally flying to Stansted Airport because he's got to fly back out to the Euros.
Yeah. I think he must have had one probably as soon as the last game of the season wraps up, they're on a flight to Ibiza.
He would have been in Mykonos last week.
Yeah, probably didn't get to finish his tan.
Yeah, exactly.
But definitely, I think one to look forward to watching. And but I think we both agree on, we just do need to go for that more experienced or more proven number 9, because Jackson and Delap maybe will get you 25 goals between them for a season.
Yep.
But they won't get you 25 goals individually, I believe.
But also as well, Nicholas Jackson can play off the left. I don't think Nicholas Jackson's suited as a out and out number 9. And I think if we don't retain Sancho, if Mikhailo Mudryk is banned for a long period of time, or we end up terminating his contract, if João Felix does leave, which I think he will, I think AC Milan don't want him, but we won't have him. Raheem Sterling will not be at the club come next season. So I think those wide areas, we'll be looking at Madueke, Neto, Tariq George, and Kunku, I think, will leave. So there's going to be room on that left side for someone like Nicholas Jackson to make it his.
Yeah, I love mentioning. I love mentioning his name because he's also in that kind of list of players. But Estevao Willian, he played his last game for Palmeiras last night in front of the fans, and he's going to go to the Club World Cup now. But he's joining up with Chelsea after the Club World Cup. Only 18, still a lot to kind of learn from English football and kind of be in England. I don't think he speaks English, but I think he could potentially play a part in the Chelsea team next season. Maybe he could benefit from a loan. But I always look at Palmeiras' lineups, and he plays on the left-hand side as a 10, as a striker in a front 2. So he's very versatile. But yeah, definitely one that I would keep an eye on this summer, because I think his future is really, really bright.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that'd be useful, but I think we've got options, and I do think we still need that prolific number 9. I think that's, you ask any Chelsea fan, yes, they're happy Liam Delap's probably coming in, but there has to be another number 9 that comes in with Liam Delap as the understudy. Mark Gui potentially be going to Ipswich, whether that's on a loan or permanent. So that'd be part of the deal, I think, to get, maybe that's been part of the deal, that we'll give you a striker on loan in return, that we can activate the release clause for Liam Delap. But other options in terms of the prolific goal scorer that we want, I think Viktor Gyokeres is still the one that I think a lot of Chelsea fans want to see come through the doors of Cobham. How likely, realistic do you think that is? Because Osimhen, I think, will go to Saudi. I think Osimhen's wages are just, we've tried it. It didn't work. I don't think we'll get him. Arsenal look hell-bent now on trying to get Benjamin Sesko. We could, and what reports are saying, we are the ones that want to try and get Gyokeres in from Sporting. How confident, likely do you think that could be?
It'd be a dream. I mean, I'll mention it all season that he'd be my dream signing as a number 9. And if Victor Osimhen wanted to come to Chelsea so bad, like he keeps saying on the Joe and Obi Mikel podcast and mentioning like Drogba's his idol, he'd be at Chelsea right now. He would have taken a wage cut and been at Chelsea right now. He would have gone to Galatasaray. He would have negotiated with the Saudi clubs last summer. He'd be at Chelsea right now, but he didn't. So that makes me think that he's not got his mind on wanting to come to Chelsea. Where
Yeah.
someone like Viktor Gyokeres, I know for a fact will come to Chelsea, hit the ground running, played in England before with Brighton and Coventry. And unlike guys like Sesko, like Ekitike, like Delap when he was in the Championship, I've actually watched Gyokeres a few times. I watched all the Sporting CP highlights, and this guy just creates his own goals. He's a natural number 9. He's got good aerial ability. We saw what he did against Man City in the Champions League, his hat trick in their 4-1 win. He's, for me, just got all that criteria and all those ticks in the boxes you want for a striker who's going to come in. And I probably wouldn't be so excited for a signing like Viktor Gyokeres since I felt about Diego Costa. Actually, no, it's probably a lie because I did feel that for Lukaku, but that didn't go work out the way we wanted. But yeah, I think he would be the one that we really need to go for. I do think his wages might be a bit of an issue though. But from what I'm hearing, we can maybe get him. His release clause is 60 million. And if you get 60 million for a player of his ability is an absolute bargain in today's transfer market. So I still think that the window's still young, but it might be one maybe we look to wrap up after the Club World Cup and kind of evaluate our resources and players that are going to be more, not so much incomings, but more outgoings, because all those names you listed, João Felix, Nkunku, Mudryk, Sterling, Chilwell, Chukwuemeka, Disasi, these are players that we probably don't want anymore. We don't need. Not that we don't need them, but we just can't afford to keep them on the books for much longer. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done with those our outgoings first before we can really target someone like a Gyokeres and bring him in. Ekitike is another one. I'm still very skeptical about Bundesliga signings.
Yeah,
and then I think there's another one, probably more for the future, but we might agree a contract with him for him to join in summer 2026. But Emmanuel Amaga, who's at Strasbourg on our sister club, 22 years of age, I think Strasbourg's top goal scorer. So it almost just seemed like a matter of time before we agreed to sign him. But yeah, I still think Gyokeres would be my number one, like I've been saying all season.
Yep. No, I agree. I think it's I agree 100%. I think he's got to be the one for us. He has to be. He has to be the one that we get through the door. And like you said, we can't go into the Champions League with just Liam Delap, Nicholas Jackson, Mark Gui potentially as our strikers. Let's just go for the visual listeners. Darmesh has put, you look more awake than he does, I think, at the moment.
I've had an extra day in being back in London, that's why, and I had my 9 hours of beauty sleep last night.
Got up the Chelsea. Rich Moneymakers, big up the legend. The Chelsea owners might surprise you with the elite experienced players, just saying. Yes, we are in the Champions League. I told you guys. Never in doubt. I've just been reading before. Apparently, Petrovic is open to a move to AS Monaco this summer. However, Chelsea's 25 million euro valuation could prove an issue. That's come from L'Equipe. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Interesting. I actually didn't know about that. I mean, I understand his perspective. He's proved on loan at Strasbourg that he's good enough to be Chelsea's number one. He was Strasbourg's player of the season as well. I think he had amongst the best save percentage in Ligue 1, just behind Lucas Chevalier, if I read that correctly. So I don't see why he would come back to Chelsea and settle for being our number 2 or even our third choice. Or so for a club like AS Monaco, now that he's settled in France, are willing to sign him, I'm sure that him and his family would happily settle down there on the French Riviera and live in the Principality. That being said, I still feel like we shouldn't sign a new goalkeeper, because I feel like someone like Diego Costa would cost us an arm and a leg. They know that there's demand for him. Mike Maignan, if we want him, we should wait till next summer when his contract runs down at AC Milan, summer 2026. He'll be a free agent. So I think we should use our current resources. I would personally loan out Jorgensen, maybe to Strasbourg if they want him. Get Petrovic back, have him as our number one, and have Sanchez as our backup. We've given Sanchez a lot of stick this season, but since his mistake at the Etihad in January, I think he's almost not, I wouldn't say redeemed himself, but he's kept a decent amount of clean sheets. And he just hasn't really done anything to make us kind of be as alarmed as we were before. But
I don't think his distribution at the back is still a bit bit shaky, but
Yeah,
I can let him off because there's not many good goalkeepers that are good at distributing out from the back now. So
no,
we can let him off for that a little bit.
definitely. And that's something I think apparently Mike Mignon's not still the best at. But yeah, I think I'd happily have Sanchez still at the club as a backup, especially if we do go in the Champions League. I would still worry having Sanchez my number one. But if Petrovic does come back, I think it's to be our number one because he shouldn't be sat there on the bench just playing the League Cup games or maybe I don't know, a league phase Champions League game against maybe one of the lesser the teams with a bit least quality. But yeah, and also if you want to get someone like Gyokeres, save some money and just use your current resources. Another one, Mike Penders, maybe he could benefit from being our third choice if we, depending on what we do with Bettinelli and Bergstrom.
Yeah.
But again, just we shouldn't just kind of splash out money on a new keeper. I would disagree with that.
I agree with you, and I think there was a comment in the chat as well for the YouTube listeners. Petrovic wants to be number one at Chelsea. I agree with that. I think we should be doing everything to keep him at the club. I think we should be giving him the reassurances that he's going to be number one. I agree that it's harsh because I feel like Jurgensen could probably benefit more than being at the club. We have to remember. I mean, you said about Adrian for Real Betis. So was Robert Sanchez. Robert Sanchez was third choice at Brighton. I'm just saying. So there is an argument that I think maybe Robert Sanchez goes out on loan and we keep Jurgensen. I know he's done well the second half of the season, Sanchez, but I think who's going to benefit more being around the core group of players that we want to see for the next 2 or 3 seasons? Is Robert Sanchez going to be that goalkeeper that's still around the club in 2025 in 2028? Is Robert Sanchez still going to be one of the goalkeepers that we're talking about? I don't think he will. I could probably say that about Jurgensen, that he might be. Mike Penders might be, but Petrovic, we should definitely give him a full season to to do what he wants to do and make that number one jersey his.
Yeah, absolutely. I've still got a lot of question marks of who can play in the Conference League, who cannot play. Will we see guys like Petrovic, Ugochukwu,
In the Club World Cup?
In the Club World Cup, yeah.
Yeah.
Joao Felix, are these guys, can they play in the Club World Cup? Do they get an extended holiday? Is it just going to be the team that we saw play in Wroclaw on Wednesday night that travels?
I think there'll be. Well, when does the window? I think surely some loans must be coming to an end. I'm trying to work out when the loans come to an end, because
I think it's in Madrid they negotiated to get Alexander-Arnold before the Club World Cup.
The 10 million,
which makes me think that contract.
it's the 31st of June. It's the date they end on the 31st of June because the contracts are till July, aren't they? I think.
Yes. Which means that probably they're still on the contract with their loan teams for the first 3 games of the Club World Cup. But
yeah, it's a tricky one. Without knowing, I wouldn't even. But yeah, I'm pretty sure their contract would expire on the 1st of July. If you ran your contract down, it would run out on the 1st of or the 31st of June. So that's why they had to pay the 10 million to get to Trent to do that. But that should work differently for loans. I think loans will be different to someone running down a contract. I don't think it shouldn't be the same. Couple of comments in the chat. Rich Moneymakers, Jadon Sancho will be staying, and Jadon Sancho got a lot of experience in finals.
He played in the Champions League final of Dortmund last season, didn't he?
I'd still send him back. I'd just cash in, take the 5 mil hit, and send him back to United. It's their problem. If he's not willing to lower his wages, which I know the club's trying the club are trying to negotiate new terms for him, new deal. If he's not willing to accept that new deal and he wants his United money, he's not going to get that at Chelsea. So I would just count our lucky losses and send him back to United. Is their problem.
I agree. Classy tweet just now yesterday from the Real Betis Twitter account. A great champion ended our dream tonight. Congratulations for the title, Chelsea FC. Always nice to see it when an opponent just kind of admits that the better team side won, I suppose, and congratulating the opponent.
I did say in the post-match video that commiserations to them because it was their first final.
Yeah,
they played well, and it was just. I mean, Manuel Pellegrini had them playing the shape,
manager.
the structure, the shape and structure that he had them in that first half. We weren't going to break them down. We just
But
weren't.
actually, I saw something. I couldn't believe this stat, but when we beat Real Betis in the final, that was after 19 straight wins. A Spanish team finally loses a final in a European competition,
Read
which
that
means that
somewhere.
every time that a Spanish team's reached the final of the Conference League, the
They've won.
Europa League, or the Champions League, they've won. When you think
Yeah,
of
yeah.
it, all the Real Madrid sides, the Barcelona sides, the Sevilla sides, the
Sevilla sides,
Villarreal
yeah.
sides that won
Yeah.
the Europa
The
League.
Europa League.
So these Spanish teams are built for winning finals. So it's a testament to us to finally
More
have
history.
beaten a
More
Spanish
history.
Spanish team. Yeah, more history.
What do you make of this? We want to keep, this is for the audio listeners, questions or comments come in on the YouTube. So we want to keep a lot of the players that won the cup to keep the winning mentality in the team. Whilst I'll agree with that, I do think there's going to be a lot of players that leave, and some of these players were not in that final. So the players that are in the final, yes, maybe I was going to say Danny Drinkwater. It's not him. What's his name? Keenan Dewsbury Hall might leave.
And Kuku as well.
And Kunku as well, I think will leave. Badia Shield, I think will leave. I'd even put a question mark on Malo Gusto. I'll be seriously honest. I don't think he's safe. You know, Achim Pong is waiting, and he can play second fiddle to Reece James. So I don't think I agree to an extent, but I don't think all those players will stay from the final. What do you think?
Chalobah as well. Chalobah,
Yeah,
I think,
Chalobah will go.
still, we have to remember we got him back for 6 months, but I think it was still kind of the plan to sell him this summer, which I still find absolutely berserk. But yeah, when you think that what the owners do, this pure profit kind of word that we keep using, then he'll likely be sold this summer, and there'll be more suitors, I think, this summer than there were last summer, given how he's performed. But I agree with what he's saying, because I do think we want to keep these kind of this group of players together, build on what they've achieved together, and take that on to next season. But at the same time, there's a lot of those names you listed that I feel don't really have a future at Chelsea, or have underperformed this season, or aren't really haven't really shown the right body language. I'm hinting towards Nkunku, and even Jurgensen, who started in goal. We just spoke about the goalkeeper situation. He might be sent out on loan or sold if we get Petrovic back. So I think there'll be a lot of outgoings amongst those, not just the players we mentioned, but also the players returning from loan. So I think it'll be a very different kind of match day squad we see on the opening day of the Premier League next season.
I agree. I've got to ask you this question. I know it's early. This could be a TBC as well. But if we do get Gyokeres through the door and Petrovic comes in, and he's, you know, the Petrovic that was at Strasbourg, thinking of Andre Santos as well, who we've not even mentioned in this episode, but and Estevao as well, who you mentioned earlier. If we can get those players in, Lavia's there, Enzo, Caicedo, Wesley Fofana. I think we need another centre back, to be honest, as well, if we do lose Dazazi and Badia Shield. But we still, and we retain Trevor Chalobah. He doesn't actually go anywhere, but this is hypothetical. What is the objectives for next season?
We have to remember, before Christmas, we were top title contenders amongst a lot of people. So we have shown glimpses that when we play well, we can achieve that kind of summit. But I think our achievement should be higher than this season. I think it should be domestic success, whether that's the FA Cup, the League Cup. It should maybe be like reducing that gap with whoever comes first. But I also feel like we should have achieved better this season from a Premier League perspective. When you look at how poor United were, how poor Tottenham were, how poor City were for large parts of the season, how it was teams like Villa, Newcastle, and Nottingham Forest challenging for top 5. So I feel like there was almost no excuses for us not to get top 5 at times when you kind of look at all those reasons. But I think that we should be challenging for the season. If it's not this next season, it will be the season after, because like I said, these group of players are still so young. But if we add a bit of experience, we retain those players you mentioned, we get in a world-class number 9, I think we can achieve a lot within the next few years.
I'm going to get shot down for saying this, but I think we should be pushing for the Premier League next season. If we bring in those players,
Liverpool will get better, like
they will.
Gyokeres, and
they will. But I think we have one of the best left backs in the Premier League in Marc Cucurella. Yeah. I think Reece James on his day is no different to Frimpong or Trent as we know it already. I think Frimponga's, I think he signed his deal now for Liverpool, so he's no different to him. I think we've got one of the best midfields in terms of Caicedo, Enzo, and Lavia. If we bring in that number 9, and we've got Liam Delap waiting in the background as well, with Nicholas Jackson as understudy to those two, and we've got, if we can retain Trevor Chalobah, and we bring in another centre half, we should be. I'm sorry, we should be pushing for that Premier League. Winning's a totally different conversation, but pushing for the Premier League, realistically, and I don't mean like last year or this season where we kind of filtered off, during the January period. We should be April. We should be in that title race where if Arsenal are doing it, Arsenal were trying to push Liverpool for a Premier League 2 seasons on the bounce now. There's nothing to say we can't do that. I'm sorry. We are a good team. And this is why I said we're 3 players away from either being really, really good, or if you sign 3 Keane and Dewsbury Halls, we are bang average. And that's the difference, where we're either bringing 3 average players who will get you the top 4, maybe top 6, or you go and get your Viktor Gyokeres and you aim to go and win the Premier League and give Liverpool, City a title race. That's where we should be, and that's where I think we will be next season.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I also feel like we're going to have Tuesday, Wednesday Champions League.
Yeah, no more Sundays.
And we can't rely on our B squad to play those games, because the Champions League is a whole different league in a way. Yeah. It's a whole different ballpark. So we're going to have to play our strongest 11 for the fixtures in the Premier League and in the fixtures in the Champions League, which means that our players that come off the bench should be players that are good enough to be starting 11 players. Something interesting I read this season is we're the first ever Premier League team that's completed 38 Premier League games without playing a player over the age of 27 in their Premier League squad. So every player we've had has been young. And that's why, again, I just use this word a lot, but we need to add some experienced players. Experienced players nowadays is someone who's around the age of 26, 27, 28, who's at the peak of their football careers in a way.
I agree. And this is a season, next season, for Cole Palmer to be another level up, because I think he's had moments this season, but he hasn't done it consistently this season like he did under Pochettino. Whether that's because Maresca's getting him to play a different style or a different approach to his game, but this will be his 3rd season at Chelsea now. So I think this season is where I'm going to really judge Cole Palmer, and maybe harshly, but I feel 3 seasons in at a club, you should be the one that, a lot of the players around you next season.
You got guys like Rafinha and Yamal who are Ballon d'Or contenders now. We had Cole Palmer as a Ballon d'Or contender probably early in the season, but since January, his form's dropped off the cliff. So if we are going to challenge for the title, go far in the Champions League, go far in his domestic cups, we're going to need Cole Palmer back at the best of his ability. I also think maybe he does need a break as well. He's played a lot of football.
He's not going to get it.
He won't. Yeah,
he's not going to get it.
World Cup. But yeah, hopefully when Premier League resumes come August, he's back to being the best Cole Palmer we'll ever see.
Let's hope so. But Theo, as always, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate everyone that's been in the chat. So if you've been in the chat, Rich Moneymakers, of course, Darmesh was in here earlier. So everyone else, John as well, I think was in there. So everyone who's been in the chat, we appreciate. Don't forget to subscribe. I think we're 4 away. So if you're on this live stream now and you haven't subscribed, please just hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave some thoughts in the comments. Head over to Instagram as well. If you're on the audio version, it doesn't matter if you're visual or you're listening on the audio. Head over to Instagram. Follow us on there. Follow us on Twitter as well.
We've got an exciting video next week, our end of season review with our nominations for best goal, best player, flop of the season. So I'm looking forward to that one.
That's always a good one. Normally we either agree or we go miles apart from each other. So that should be a decent one. So yeah, make sure you hit the notification bell, tune in for that one. And until then, enjoy the rest of the weekend when you get to it. And we'll be back soon.